Welcome back, guys. Okay, in this chapter, let's study what is a variable. See, we already been using variables here. See, this num1, num2, sum, felight, they all are variables. It's a year, radius, area, isn't it? So, what is a variable? Okay, let's take a real word thing. Um, we can call an variable as a container. Okay, say if you take real word one object, let's say bag, your bag or something. So your bag can be called as a container. Today it contains book, laptop and all. Tomorrow it may contain maybe drugs. So the value of variable your container bag has changed over a period of time. I was talking about the drugs which you get it in medical store. Okay, I don't know what you thought in your mind. Anyway, now coming back to this. So variable can be called as a container, whereas your bag is a real word container. Whereas when it comes to variables in Java, we are talking about electronic container. It can store electronic data. Say for example here, radius 1, which is capable of storing floating point numbers because this container type is also specified, is of type double. So for example, now if I want to write a general syntax, I would write data type and variable name. I would write like this. So the data type determines what type of value can be stored in this variable. So how do you define a variable? A variable is a container whose value can change over a period of time. So this guy's value can change over a period of time. Now the data type what we have here, it can be any one of 8 primitive data types. It can be any one of primitive data type or user defined data type. So what is user defined data type? We'll study later. For now, the example you can take string. So if you have a variable, let's say string str, you can say string is basically an user defined data type. In future we'll study more about it. The 8 primitive data types you already aware. That is, so the data type can be byte or short, int, long, float, double, character, that is char, and boolean. So we studied that, okay, this data type and variable name. So what I'll do now, I will take one small examples, like let me create again one new file. I'll do one thing, I will create one class called test, n space or s space test.java. The same thing you do it in your Windows console, that will also work because we did configured either Notepad++. If it's Notepad++, type n. If it is Sublime, type s. So we did created the shortcut and all, remember, in the setup. Here, but for both s or n, I configured it to launch with Sublime itself. Okay, so I'll create a class called test. Then I'll create one starting point, public static void main string, I'll say felight. Okay, now the first thing, I told you that data type can be any of the 8 primitive data type, but throughout this example I will just simply take the data type as int. So in place of int you can replace with boolean or what do you call, character, byte, short, int, long, float, double, or user defined data type like string. So I'll simply use int as an example. Okay, the first thing, in the video, below the video you can find the notes of this chapter. Okay, so the same notes which I am following and explaining here. Okay, so there will be a subheading called declaring a variable. So this is the example for declaring a variable. I can say I have declared a variable called num, which is of type int, declaring more than one variable in the same line. This is the example for declaring more than one variable in the same line. Same way, declaring a variable and initializing it in the same line. Okay, there's another subheading which says declaring a variable and then initializing it. This is the example. Declaring a variable and then initializing it. Declaring and initializing a variable, more than one variable in the same line. These are the various ways of creating the variables. Using a variable in its own expression. Let's say a simple example take int x equal to 10, x equal to x plus 1. So after this, if I write println output, what will be the output? You can do this compile and execute and check it by yourself. The output will be 11. So I used a variable in its own expression. So we learned how to declare a variable, how to declare and initialize a variable in the same line, declare and initialize in different line, declare and initialize in the same line, declare more than one variable in the same line using a variable in its own expression. So that's all the variable. These are very fundamental and basic things. Okay, so the data type determines what type of value we can store it in a variable. So here x is of type int, so we can store integer value. Whereas if you say 10.1, this would be wrong. It will result in a compile time error. Why is that? The type has been defined as int, so only integer value can be stored. If you define the type as character, then only character value can be stored. Same if you define a boolean, that variable, then that variable can store either true or false value. Okay, in the next lesson we'll study about final variables. See you. Please do complete the notes, go through the notes, write down each and every point, and please do revise. Thank you.